Hello guys, welcome back to the channel and welcome back to the next build video of the MR Aerodesign's PC-6 Pilatus Turbo Porter. I know this may be slightly confusing to you, so let's roll that intro and we will get into this. Alright guys, so in the last video I said that was the last video we were going to be doing, and we do have one more to do. So what we're going to do is we are going to flip back to some footage that I took when I built the doors for this aircraft. And then the last thing I'm going to be doing for the owner of the aircraft is I'm going to be installing the sliding door mechanism. So this is the point in the build when I was planning on installing the sliding door mechanism. So I'm going to finish that up because I had it up here as far as how we're going to do it. And I should be able to get it done quite quickly and efficiently and make everything work. So let's roll back to that footage of putting the doors together. And once that's done, we will be back to deal with the sliding door. All right, guys, so we're working on two different things right now at the same time. So while we wait for cowl stuff to cure, which you're probably already seeing the cowl video, we are going to start working on the door setup. So thanks for tuning in. Don't forget to give the video a thumbs up. Hit that subscribe button down below if you haven't done so already. And when you do hit that subscribe button, don't forget to hit the bell so you get notified when new videos come out. Let's take a look at what we're doing. Okay, so the stock kit comes with plywood doors, I believe. The downside to the plywood doors is they can warp and bend. So you may not be able to see it, but if you can, there's a shot. So you can use the plywood doors. They're probably going to work fine, but there is a door kit available from Martin at MR Aerodesign. So what the door kit is you get balsa pieces to make the doors. The doors are made in multiple pieces. And then you've got your thin, I think this is 1/64 ply is what they call it, but it's basically thin stuff. I don't know really what it is, but anyways, this goes over top of the balsa and it gives you something that is flat and something that won't warp. So that's what we're using on this. What we've decided, or what the owner has decided to do, is we are going with the scale sliding door on one side. We're going to go with the fixed door on the other side, but the fixed doors are going to be like barn doors. So they will be openable, but other than the hinges being there, it's going to be hard to notice that they are openable. So it'll still be a nice scale look. And then we're going to have opening front doors and also opening door at the back hatch there as well too. So lots of cool things happening on the door side of this. We're not using the included door system. We are going to do something a little bit different. Anyways, guys, that's what we're doing. So first step is basically putting these doors together. I didn't see any instructions, but it's really not that complicated. There's a bunch of pieces. You just put them together to make the shape of the door. So that's the first step. We're going to get that done, and we'll show you the results. Luna's helping. Good job, Luna. You're about as helpful as bent screwdriver. All right, guys, door kit is done. So these pilot doors, I guess, the primary door, the barn doors, those were all quite straightforward. The back door, nothing's included in the kit, or at least that I could find. So what we did is we made a piece that fits inside the opening. So to do that, we just held a piece of balsa on the inside, traced around the outside, cut that out, sanded it, shaped it nice. And then we took a piece of extra super thin ply stuff and laid this out over top and then added a 1/4 inch all the way around. So made a really, really nice fit for the door. I have a little bit of shaping still to do, but fits really, really nice. We're going to have our hinges here, and it's just going to be a beautiful fit. And if you look at the scale version of this plane, this door is almost invisible, which we're going to be able to achieve with the way this is set up. So I'm happy with that. It turned out really, really nice. I think it's a great look for the plane. So that's what we've accomplished while we're waiting for the epoxy on the firewall to dry. All right, guys, so the stock setup that's included with the kit, it'll probably work fine, just not overly excited about it. They're basically these little I-beam things that are plastic, strip styrene stuff. There's a profile of what it is. And then these little keepers are supposed to get glued into the doors in the little channels there. Not an overly strong way of doing things, so we're going to do things a little bit different. Basically what we're doing is we are going to have this channel, top and bottom. Now these are K&S brass channels, 9886, the 3/16 brass channel. Now the other problem is, I don't know if they make this, I did a bit of research, couldn't find it, but the 8152 square brass tube, which is this. Now it fits in there beautifully, and that's a great fit. Now we could just glue this onto the bottom of the door like that, and we'd probably be fine, but we want to do things better. So we want to take this brass channel and turn it into a U, just like this piece here. So what we're going to do is put this on the belt sander, on the table sander, and try and sand off one end of this to try and open it up. If that works, then it's going to slip right over top of the door itself. So something like that is what we're looking for. And it's going to be a nice fit. So that's the goal. That's the reason we're doing it this way. So next step is to try and get rid of one side of that brass. All right, so all the sanding, guys, worked. We got the smaller channel made. It took quite a while to get through there, but it did end up working. So now we've got some pieces that we can install on the top and the bottom of the door. We do actually need a little bit more of the small channel and some of the big channel, so I'll have to pick that up. So, but everything worked out good making those smaller channels. So good progress. All right, so the sliding door mechanism, in the previous videos, we did use my router and we cut the channels for the sliding door. Now, basically, the only real important key thing here is when you put the wing on, the control rod or control, the ball joint that's in the root of the wing sits really, really close to this door opening. So I knew that before, and I had that all planned out in my head. So that's the only real key thing that we have to deal with. But other than that, this door is going to be sitting roughly about there, and we're just going to set the slide mechanism to come back, and it's going to come back to about here so it doesn't interfere with the door in the back. So that's basically what we're doing, guys, and that's the purpose of this video, is to finish up the doors. Again, this will be the last thing we do on this aircraft, but then it'll be ready for the owner to take over the build. Now, I know some of you guys were asking, oh, maybe you don't recognize me either. I've got my glasses on today. But I know some of you guys were asking, you know, you were number one sad that we're not finishing the build. I get that. Me too. But really, why is this going back to the owner? He's been watching the videos and he knows that I've been having so much fun putting this thing together. He was really missing out on the fun, so he wanted some of the fun and excitement as well too. So I sure hope that we will be able to go for the maiden and do a video, so we will definitely try and do that, but that's in the works. All right, guys, so there is the fuselage with its sliding door side up. It's actually kind of a cool perspective because you can see the angle on the wing, I think 3 degrees or something like that. All right, so what I've done here is I've installed this wing, and the reason for that is because I've taken a really, really fine point Sharpie. You can hopefully see it in the joint there. And I have marked out where this wing sits on the fuselage. So now I can pull this wing up and we can deal with getting this door set up. And ultimately the interference point is this ball joint for the flap. So we just need to work around that, and that's what we're doing. All right, guys, so we've got a couple, I guess, different options here with how to deal with the sliding door. So number one, we've got just a little bit of an overlap on the front edge and a little bit of overlap on the back edge. So that's number one. The door, this position kind of has its own spot to stop in. Now, we do have some play up and down, and you can see how I've got things lined up here. So we've got the gap on the top there. Now, both of our brass channels are installed, and then our piece of wood, okay, it's like an L bend. It's going to go like this. So when it's installed, it's basically hiding the brass channel. And then same thing on the bottom, like that. Okay, so that's how we are going to do this door. Now, essentially, the important thing for the top is I want to make sure that I get this lined up and in a decent spot where I can still have space for this ball joint when you put the wing on to clear. And I don't want to have the gap that I've left there exposed. So I think we are really, really close. And but that's basically how I'm getting things lined up and getting that done. So step number one will essentially be getting these wooden pieces put in place and getting them lined up so the door is started off. Then we're going to glue these in place, and then what's going to happen is we'll glue our stops in the front, we'll put our extensions in the back and all that kind of stuff. But number one, we want to get this lined up perfectly. All right, guys, so a little bit of a change of plans with the door, and these are things that often happen to my projects as you get into things and think about things and have time to examine things. I found a better way and more scale way. So my initial thought of using these pieces of plywood, I think was a good one, but not very scale looking. And the reason I say that, now our goal here was to eliminate those plastic I-beam pieces from being mounted on the fuselage and not being very strong. So we were going to go with these channels, the brass channels, which we're still going to use, which is a great idea. It's just my thinking of holding the channels in place with this piece of wood, I don't think is a really good one. And the reason for that is because it really protrudes from the door. So it's a very obvious bump. But when you look at the actual scale plane, the door is essentially flush and those I-beam joint things are on the rail. And this basically is a more scale way of doing it. So I went and picked up today this L piece of brass, and that will take care of the leading edge of the door being scale. So as I go through this, I'll throw some pictures up, but the leading edge has this stop like this with a rubber gasket on it, and that follows the profile of the door, which we'll be able to replicate very easily with this brass channel, this brass angle, sorry, and that's exactly what we're using there. And then I think the best way to do it is basically glue the brass channels right on the fuselage, and then back in this rear section, then we will build a piece of ply that glues everything, so glues this back portion of the rail onto the fuselage. And I think that's going to work out great. It's going to be very scale, and I think it's the solution that we were looking for. So I like that idea better. The reason I like it better is it's a cleaner look. I'm glad I didn't glue those plywood pieces on yesterday. I was really kind of trying to get it done yesterday, and then as I looked at it, I'm like, man, they just don't look right. And I was looking at pictures, and I spent some time today looking at pictures, and I'm glad I waited. So I think this is going to be a great idea, a great solution for this. So I'm going to work on mocking up all the metal pieces. Now I do have the larger channel. I didn't get enough, and the hobby stores don't have them. So I bought this box, which is the same size, but it's a profile. And we need to cut this into 2 pieces. So that's going to be a bit of a challenge. Fortunately, though, the width on this way is, even if you cut down the center, it's too wide compared to the wide channels that we have. So we'll have lots of room there to cut, and then we'll have to sand this down so it matches the existing channels. So anyways, guys, I'm going to work on that. Glad I came to this conclusion. So anyways, I will update you probably very shortly. All right, quite excited about this, guys. I think it's going to work out great. So I got that square piece all cut into 2 additional pieces, so that's fine. So what I've done here is basically lined it up so we're as tight to the top as possible, and we're just getting close to the ball joint there for the wing. So I might drop it down about 1 millimeter. One of the struggles is in this area the door comes up. The more you go down with this channel, the less contact you get with the rail, but we have epoxy and structural epoxy that we can use to fasten that as well. So not really a concern. I just want to be as accurate as possible with this area. And the next thing I did was take that L-bend piece that I got today and basically held it up there, cut a relief cut, added a bend to it. Because it's brass, it bends quite easily. And we've got the leading edge finishing block piece that matches the scale detail nicely. So that is, everything's kind of mocked up right now. We have to think about is how far back do we go with this? So the scale aircraft ends about there. So just in front of this rear door. Now I've seen some guys run this way far back like that. And I know the reason they do that, because if we open this door to this point, the scale point, the door overlaps the opening by about 1.5 inches maybe. And they probably are doing that because they want more access. But of course we are trying to get this as scale as possible as per the owner's request. So what I'm going to do is take a look at the plans. We're just going to draw a line across here, and that's as far back as we're going to bring our rails. Now, because of the way this door overlaps, I don't want to put a full rail here and then have a piece here, because then what happens is the door slides into the rail joint. So what I'd rather do is run a full piece of channel here, so the door is actually sitting on that joint, so you're not having any interference with that joint. So hopefully that makes sense. Getting really close. I'm just going to finish the layup here and try and get everything as accurate and level as possible. And then I think once we've got everything laid up, we'll start gluing these pieces onto the fuselage. All right, guys, so we got everything lined up now. We've got our marks on the brass, we've got our marks on the fuselage, we've got our stop points for the door, and I think we're happy and ready to glue this stuff on. So as I've mentioned, I have gone as tight as possible with these things, and we have just enough clearance for the ball joint on the wing. So that should work. Amazing. And what I've done is I've roughed up the backside of the brass channels, so when we glue those on, there'll be some good adhesion. And then what I'll do as well is I'm going to sand the primer down a little bit so we are roughened up and when we go to glue that on. So the point of all this is we're going to get this section glued with the door in place. We can let it cure overnight. And we've got our mark back here for how far the channels are going to come back and how far the door comes back, so it's scale. And then once these are glued in place, the front portion of the rails, what I'm going to do is I'm going to hold a piece of plywood up here, trace that out, and then we can install the plywood afterwards, and it should be a absolutely perfect door setup. And the very final thing we'll do is the latch, which is right up here, but that's probably the easiest part of this whole thing. So I think this is going to work out awesome. Next thing I'm going to do is mix up some West Systems 610 epoxy, and we will get these pieces glued in place. So throughout this whole process, Martin from MR Aerodesign and I have been in contact back and forth. He's been picking up ideas from my build, and he sent me an email last night and let me know about all the updates to this kit. If you guys are thinking about one of these PC-6 kits, he has changed a ton of things, and I've just got my phone here to look at the email. So first thing is the scale tail wheel. He's got a wicked setup done. I will include pictures. I think I'm allowed to do that, so I'll include pictures of the scale tail wheel. I think it's finalized. There's already been some orders for the scale tail wheel. The kit's been modified, so the removable stab is stock, which is cool. And I saw the layups and the plans for it. It looks absolutely awesome. The elevator servos are on the stab now. They're not in the fuselage, which is also very, very cool. And he said, I've also enlarged the lightning hole in the rear fuselage section to save some weight. And then coming up in Model Airplane News Magazine in a few months, I believe, there'll be an article about the MR Aerodesign PC-6. So check it out, guys. Check out their website. There's a link down below in the description. Great kit. I've been very, very happy with this kit so far. And with the changes that he's making, it's going to be an even better kit. So chat with Martin if you're interested in one of these things. You will be impressed. All right, everything is glued in place, guys, and it worked out good. I think it is better than I had expected. So we didn't do the leading edge piece because we have to get some of this cut off tomorrow. So we'll cut those pieces off. We've got our extensions off the back, which are all lined up, and then we just have to cut our wood pieces that go in there, so that'll be no problem. But our channels are all glued in place, and then we just test fit the wing and put that on, and it is just the right amount of space. So it worked out perfect. Awesome. So great fitment of the door. I'm very happy with this. Glad we didn't go with those wood pieces, those wood channels. This is much cleaner looking and more scale looking. All right, guys, next day, and the door worked out awesome. Very, very impressed with the way everything worked out. I do have to pull the door out and clean up the rails a little bit because we got a little bit of excess glue in there, but no worries with that. That will clean up nicely. So a couple of the final steps that we have to do. So we've got this leading, if you remember in the previous videos, one of the leading edges I had an issue with, and that's because basically this is like basswood, not balsa. So we're going to use this to make the rear pieces. So it's going to be pretty straightforward. Basically all we're doing is lining up like that. We'll trace it out and then we'll glue those in place. So that needs to happen on the top and the bottom. And then what we can do is trim these front rails to line up with the front of the door. And then we can put that channel down the front side. So pretty much done this door, and figure out the door latch. We might leave that off because, well, we'll figure it out anyways. But yeah, so the door is coming along really, really nicely. Really, really happy with that. So I'll get this stuff lined up, guys. Pretty straightforward. Just line it up like this, trace it out, and get that lined up, get it glued in place, and I will continue to show you the progress. All right, guys, so we've got the wooden pieces glued in place, and we're just waiting for that to cure. But looks like everything worked out well. We'll have a little bit of cleanup to do on the inside of the rail, but no big deal there. So what I've done now is we're going to move on to our last piece of this door, and we are going to trim the brass channel on our Sharpie marks here, and then that will allow us to glue down our leading edge piece, which will be the final step for this this door installation. So I've marked these black marks where they need to go, and I think I'm probably going to use a Dremel on those. I might use my hacksaw, we'll have to see, but we're just going to trim that off, and then we'll get the other piece fit. All right, guys, door is positioned, top and bottom rail is cut, and we are ready to glue our front lip into place. So I've trimmed this down so we're exactly the right length, top and bottom, and I think that is going to look absolutely awesome we'll get it positioned and stuck in place, and it just follows that door perfectly. So very, very impressed with that. I think that turned out absolutely awesome. So I'm going to get this glued and we will do the wrap up to this video. Well, sometimes guys, when tape doesn't work or clamps doesn't work, you just got to use cans of stuff. So anyways, that's holding the leading edge in place of the door, and it's working good. All right, guys, so I know in the last episode we said that this was the last episode, but this is actually the last episode. This plane's getting picked up this weekend, and the door is basically done. We're probably going to figure out the latch mechanism, but everything that I needed to get done is now complete with the PC-6. So hopefully you guys enjoyed this last episode, the door episode. If you have any questions or comments, list them down below. Don't forget to give the video a thumbs up. Hit that subscribe button down below. When you do hit the subscribe button, hit the bell so you get notified when I release new videos. We are moving from this plane into the Swift glider from Maibo. So that is the next project in the queue. It's going to be a fun one. Should be fairly quick, but it's going to be a great project. We also have the F-18 that I built previously. That's coming back, and we're going to be doing some changes. Now, I know if you watch that build, that plane did get sold, but it got sold locally. So that plane is still around. The Maiden is still upcoming with that plane. So we've got some changes we're going to make to that plane. I'm assuming I'll probably video the changes for that as well. And then after that, that stuff happens, or the glider happens, we will be doing the F-15 build. So lots of great things coming, guys. And then after the F-15, we've got another twin coming too. So that's going to be cool. Anyways, guys, thanks so much for tuning in. We will see you in the next video.